Right, good evening everybody and welcome to tonight's Development Control Committee. We have one plan up for consideration tonight. Just a few words of introduction and then we'll start. So the Development Control Committee, for the benefit of public viewing, is a quasi-judicial committee comprised of councillors making non-political decisions based on planning law derived from the national policy framework and our own local plan policies. Seated to my left are planning officers who will be offering expertise tonight. Seated to my right is a legal officer to make sure everything's legal, and my vice chair, and then councillors sitting in the chamber to my right. Just a couple of housekeeping points. If the fire alarm sounds tonight, there is no fire drill scheduled, so it will be for real. Should it sound, then you will leave by the nearest available exit and we will assemble at the muster point in the War Memorial Park. One other point for consideration tonight is this meeting is hopefully being webcast and shown streamed live. So we will start with item 1, agenda apologies. I think we're all present and correct. Excellent. Any declarations of interest? There are none. Excellent. Any urgent matters arising? I'm advised there are none. So next item, minutes of the meeting held on the 11th of October 2023 to be viewed for accuracy. Anyone present wish to move? Councillor Miller, seconded Councillor Court. Those in favour, please show. Okay, that's near unanimous. So I shall now sign these as a true record. Which moves us on to the next item, which is applications for consideration by the committee. And Lisa, as the officer presenting, could you introduce, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And on the agenda, there are 2 applications, both relating to the same site, one for full permission and one for listed building consent. So I'll introduce the full application first, and then you'll make a decision on that one, and then we'll move to the listed building consent. So the first application seeks full planning permission for the demolition of the existing vehicle repair centre workshop and stable buildings at Worting Park, and development comprising 104 dwellings, which includes affordable housing, a neighbourhood centre comprising a community building and a children's preschool nursery, new vehicular and pedestrian access off Worting Road, public open space, drainage ponds and swales, pedestrian cycle routes, parking and other associated works, together with repairs and alterations to the listed walled garden. I'll draw members' attention to the update paper, and you'll see notes of the viewing panel that took place last Friday on the site, together with 2 minor corrections to the main papers, one relating to a paragraph reference number on page 93, and the other a minor error with regard to condition 33. So moving on to the application itself, whilst this is set out in detail in the papers, I thought it might be useful to give some context to the proposals and the background to this site. If you could have the next slide, please. So as shown on this slide, this is an extract from the inset map of our local plan, and in particular relation to policy SS310, which shows the entirety of the Many Down housing allocation site. The red cross-hatched area identifies the wider Many Down site, which you will recall already has the benefit of outline planning permission for up to 3,520 dwellings granted in December 21. Next slide, please. This is a close-up of that inset map. The completely shaded red site to the south has been built out with 70 dwellings, and this is known as Beckett's Rise. Our site before us tonight is part of the speckled red area and identified within that inset map as phase 1 within the entire allocation. Next slide, please, Sally. This is the location plan of the area for consideration this evening, with the site in red and land ownership blue, and this just shows an aerial view of the site in question, picking out the walled garden and relationship with Worting House. Slide, please. As set out in the papers, the site has been the subject of extensive pre-application discussions since 2016. This slide shows the first 2016 proposal for 290 dwellings, and as you can see, development across most of the site, the northwest and south sections. The 2019 proposal shows a reduction to 244 dwellings, but still with built form on the northern and southern sections. And here the 2022 scheme, showing a further reduced scheme of 120 dwellings with less development on the northern section. And this led to the scheme that we now have before us on the next slide, which is the 104 dwellings, community building and nursery. Next slide, please. The proposal also includes a new vehicular access, and this slide illustrates that access arrangement to be taken from the B3 400. This would not compromise the wider many-down access arrangements. The main report sets out in detail the context of the site and its location within the Worting Conservation Area, noting also the other heritage and non-designated heritage assets in proximity to the site. As been seen on this slide, the scheme has been designed around a number of character areas which have been determined by the different characteristics of each part of the site. The neighbourhood hub would provide the link between the new residential development and Worting House itself. So through the evolution of the proposals presented via the pre-application engagement referred to earlier, this has resulted in the scheme reflective of the sensitivities of the site, and one which officers feel is a higher quality than usually found within edge of settlement schemes, helped by the use of different forms of architectural detailing, as noted on page 69 of the agenda, and the next few slides give a few examples of how some of the units would look with the various elements of detailing. If you just flick through some of those. And this would be the walled garden edge. You've got chimneys, you've got some stone sills, porches, and window recesses. So that just gives a flavour of what the overall character of the development would be. In relation to affordable housing, a viability assessment was provided showing the scheme being only able to provide 31% affordable housing in order to remain viable. This has been tested by an independent consultant on behalf of the council. We have managed to secure the rented element to be for social rent rather than affordable rent, and the consultant reached the conclusion that this affordable housing offer was the one that would make the scheme viable, and on that basis we consider this is the best affordable housing offer, and in this case is considered acceptable. Turning now to impact on heritage assets, the main report starting at page 57 sets out in detail how the proposal has been assessed against the requirements of statutory legislation and the NPPF, including the public benefit test. The balance in relation to heritage harm is set out on page 66. It acknowledges there would be less than substantial harm to heritage assets, but that this harm is outweighed by the public benefits, including delivery of housing as part of the council's largest residential allocation site, set against the shortfall in the council's 5-year housing land supply. The report also assesses a proposal against a number of other matters relating to amenity, landscape and tree impacts, biodiversity, environmental health, flood risk, highways, public open space, and infrastructure provision. So clearly the development would permanently alter the immediate character of the area, but this must be recognised against the context of the surrounding area will also be undergoing a significant and permanent change once the wider many-down scheme is built out. The overall planning balance is set out on page 92 of the report. The proposal will provide a number of benefits, including delivery of housing in the short term, contributing towards the 5-year supply, which is considered a significant benefit of the scheme, Other benefits include affordable housing, public open space, environmental enhancements, heritage improvements, and community facilities. Less than substantial harm to the heritage assets would occur, but those would be outweighed by the public benefits, and officers conclude the presumption in favour of sustainable development should apply. Therefore, the proposal is for recommendation to approve, subject to the completion of a legal agreement for those matters set out in the main agenda, together with conditions proposed and the minor adjustment to the wording of condition 33.
Thank you very much. We have down to speak in objection Amy Ranjapit and Vanya Gulka from Choice Care. If you'd like to approach the first couple of seats on your right as you come down the aisle. That's great. Welcome to Development Control. You'll have 4 minutes to speak between the two of you. And when you're ready, if you just press the button on your right at the mic, we'll start the 4 minutes. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, do apologise. Thank you for allowing us to speak today. My name is Amy Ranjapit and I'm a Deputy Regional Director for Choice Care, and my colleague is Vanya Gorka. Vanya is the manager of Oakley Lodge and I line manage Oakley Lodge. The home that we're talking about today has been in situ since 2016 and it was purpose built for the people who currently live there and they call it their home. Our main concerns are the loss of amenities and privacy. The purposed apartments that are situated directly opposite our back garden will be overlooking directly into Oakley Lodge. The issue is the lack of privacy with them being so overlooked. Our home was built purposely for its quiet location, and that will be lost, and some of our residents may be forced to move away due to the increase of noise. Also, due to the loss of privacy, the residents will become closed in with high fences that will be required and curtains that may need to be permanently closed. It would have been better if the 2-storey houses were located there rather than the amount of flats that are planned. At least dignity would still be intact for our residents. The noise levels are of concern because the plans are to have the cars parked backing onto our grounds, which has never been there since the home has opened. And the added increase of this, plus the road going round, will impact the home greatly. Some of the people who live at Oakley Lodge are noise sensitive, and this is the reason they moved to this quiet location. The issue of the noise of the building works is also going to be significant. We are concerned that this will cause an increased residents' challenging behaviour, as it will be distressing when they are so used to being in such quiet surroundings. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Did you want to say anything? We've got 2 minutes left.
That's fine, thank you.
Okay, I'll throw it open to the floor then. If you'd like to switch, well, keep it on actually. Any questions from councillors? Councillor Miller?
Thank you, Joan. Yeah, could you explain exactly where Oakley Lodge is located? Well, the information I have on the various maps here, it says King's Lodge, but I don't know where Oakley Lodge is.
On the bottom of the map, where it's outlined in red, that's Oakley Lodge. At the back there, the annexes are right on our boundary.
Thank you.
Councillor Helswell?
Thank you. We were there on Friday and the noise from Worthing Road was fairly substantial, even when we were stood behind the care home. So do you have specific times of day or night that you're concerned that this noise is going to be an issue? with the new residents? Because the road itself is already fairly
I
noisy.
think that because the annexes are at the back of our property, they're not directly on the main road, and because the property is set back from the main road, it's not about the road from the noise, it's about the extra noise that's going to be at the back of the property. Things like people who live with us, they don't like dogs, they don't really like children, and it's all those extra noises that they're not used to having at the moment because it's such a quiet area. So it isn't specific times or anything, it's just that, you know, they live in annexes because they can't live with lots of other people, so they have to live on their own. So therefore, it's not a specific time that we're thinking, that we just think it's going to be constant extra noise all the time for them.
Okay, any other questions from councillors? Councillor Rattigan.
Thank you. Just obviously you built the facility in 2016. We'd already allocated this as a housing allocation as part of the money down then. Were you aware that there would be houses in behind you?
I'm not 100% sure of that. I mean, we'd already started building prior to that. We opened in 2016, so we moved in then. So I'm not 100% sure if we knew there were going to be houses. I would assume we didn't know, because we wouldn't have built that specific care home there had we have known, because we knew it needed to be a quiet area.
Okay, any more questions? Okay, thank you very much for your time. Okay, and speaking in support of the application, I have Mrs. Miles, if you'd like to approach, please. Okay, so I understand that one of you speaking and two available to answer questions. The mic should work for all three of you. Welcome to Development Control, and when you're ready, if you press the button on the right underneath the console, you'll have 4 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to address you. I'm Catherine Miles from Provision and speaking on behalf of the applicants, Carla Holmes. This meeting represents the culmination of over 5 years of positive and proactive engagement with officers, residents and consultees in relation to the delivery of this allocation. This application represents phase 1 of Manydown development and is a crucial milestone in the delivery of the most important strategic site allocation within your local plan. Worthing Park provides an inspirational setting, however the estate is an underappreciated heritage asset given the lack of public access. There are also deteriorating features such as the 18th century walled garden and unsympathetic 1960s development. Our proposals ensure a sensitive and complementary new development which can discreetly nestle to enrich the village of Worthing. Our vision is to create a sustainable place to live, work and play. We believe we have achieved this through our design concept, which has embraced the heritage assets and assimilated the development into the landscape. There are no standard house types here. Carla has designed each building carefully to respect the character of Worthing and to reflect the local vernacular and characterful streets and inspirational buildings and spaces. Residents will be connected to the neighbourhood centre in the existing settlement by a series of footpaths which lead from, to and through engaging open spaces, focusing on the revitalised walled garden at the heart of the development. The key benefits are 104 homes, making a significant contribution to the council's unmet housing need. Although the site's allocated and should be approved in line with the development plan, these homes will also assist the council in reducing the shortfall in supply. This is a full application and Carla are well placed to deliver the first homes within the Manydown allocation very quickly. 32 affordable homes, including 17 homes of social rent, the most affordable form of housing. Our affordable homes are located throughout the site and our mix has been independently verified. Whilst this represents a small shortfall against the policy requirement, we hope it's noted that we did submit a policy compliance scheme. We had to lose 11 units to address consultee comments and this has impacted on viability. However, 31% affordable housing is still a meaningful contribution and should not set a precedent given the very significant heritage benefits, including the repairs to the walled garden and other benefits such as a village hall and nursery. The social benefits include the provision of new public open space and the proposed neighbourhood centre, which will be fully accessible for new as well as existing residents. The repair and restoration of the existing walled garden to provide a community garden, which will be a significant public asset and will be a place where local people can come together to socialise and grow fruit and vegetables. Also, our scheme includes woodland walks, space for play, socialising, as well as improved connectivity with Worthing Village and the wider allocation at Many Down to the north and west. The environmental benefits include the retention of trees together with significant new planting. There are a range of on and off-site heritage improvements which are listed on page 59 of your officer's report. We also achieved 12.94% BNG, exceeding your requirements. Further, Carla has adopted its own urban
1 minute
wildlife
left.
strategy, meaning each property would have a back brick and bird box and hedgehog holes. Carla also provide each property with a dedicated EV charging point, and the construction of dwellings will exceed the requirement of relevant building regulations in terms of sustainability by 31%. The Carla team are proud of this scheme before you this evening. As your officer recognises, this has been a collaborative process where officers and the applicant have worked together to bring an exemplar development to Basingstoke. I'm proud to be part of this team, and I look forward to seeing this new sustainable community come to life. We hope you agree with your officer's recommendation and grant planning permission for what we firmly believe will be an exemplary new neighbourhood in a historical setting for Basingstoke. Thank you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions with my team that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. During the sort of years of preparation, were you aware of the sort of sensitive nature of the residents in the care home?
Yes, we were, and the application for the care home was submitted in 2015. At that point, the local plan had been submitted for examination, and this site was included within that local plan. And I appreciate we don't have it before us, but if you looked at the officer's report for the care home application, it does refer to the care home and this development and the submission of the local plan. We have set the dwellings away from the properties. This is referred to in your officer's report, the separation distance. That's it. So on page 73 of your officer's report, in the last paragraph of the first bullet point, so the building's being 30 metres from the care home at the nearest point. So that's in excess of the normal residential amenity standards.
Thank you. Councillor Robinson?
Thank you, Chair. You're providing 31% affordable housing, and I understand the reason why it's been reduced from the standard 40%. But has any application been made for any funding from, say, Homes England or any other source to bring that back up to our standard level?
In terms of the affordable housing, I mean, we go for the 31% will be got tested with a registered provider. I mean, if there is grant funding or there's funding available from Homes England, that's something that we will look at. But at the moment, there isn't any available. They tend to be investing themselves in direct sites, so they will deliver their own sites directly rather than purchasing 106 affordable. So at the moment, we're not aware of any provision that is there. So the 31% will be directly transferred from Carla to a registered provider.
Thank you. Councillor Rattigan?
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to, as you've moved the development down over a period of time, I'd like to have some confirmation about how you're going to do the walkways into the wider Manny Down and how cycle paths to the centre there would work. Have you thought that out?
Yes, we have. There's planning conditions recommended in the report that require and secure the delivery of those connections. So Carla can only control the connection up to its legal land ownership boundary. We're the full application that's coming forward. So although the wider allocation has the outline application, it still needs to go through the reserved matters. So what I would assume will happen is that in assessing those reserved matters subsequently, it will be ensured that those footpaths line up to ours. But ours do connect, as you can see on the plan, in several places. So those have been designed to align with the master plan and to provide the connectivity through to the Worthing development as we understand it to come forward now.
Councillor Hussey?
Thank you, Chair. Can you just point out to me the car parking spaces which are nearest to the curtilage of Oakley Lodge? Are they on the perimeter? It's along there.
Yeah, I was going to say
Well,
it
in
might
that
be
case,
best
can you
if-
tell me what screening is going to be there so that we don't get headlight interference at night time shining directly into Oakley Lodge? What screening are you providing?
So there's a landscape condition that secures the detail of the landscape plan, but there's a mixture there of hedgerow and trees. I think you can just see the tree lines. So as they grow, they will mature. But there's also hedgerow planting there to deal with the headlights and features at ground level.
Okay, any further questions? Councillor Robinson?
Thank you, Chair. The buildings that are shown as close to the care home as the closest ones, can you give us an idea of the orientation of those buildings in terms of windows? I'm looking at it thinking, from what I can see on there, am I right in thinking the windows face, give or take, east or west, rather than facing south towards the care home?
Yes, there will be windows front and back, so there will be windows facing towards the care home because of the design and orientation of the building. But the window distance, this is referred to in the officer's report. Building, so I think is it 41 metres from the window to the nearest window in the building. So it's well in excess of the council's amenity separation distance standards.
So there are windows facing directly from those buildings towards the care home. Why have they not, in view of the sensibilities of it, why have the buildings not been orientated so the windows face east or west and the gables face the care home with no windows overlooking the care home? Because we've heard that privacy is an issue.
Know if you actually do have the coloured tenure strategy plan in the pack, because that might be helpful. But just on the, if I hold it up, it's actually only that blue building there. So the one building there that faces directly towards these two buildings, and these two buildings are sideways facing. I appreciate on the black and white drawing it's not so clear to see that. The other buildings are then set further back, and that's been designed to frame and relate to the open, to the walled garden and the community garden, and frame that space as part of the heritage considerations.
Councillor Freeman, I see your hand up.
Thank you. How will things like the community orchard and the village hub be managed and things like that? And how long are you providing funding for that? How long will that be for?
So Carla will establish it as part of the work. So Carla will be doing all the structural works around the walled garden, and then as part of the legal agreement, we will transfer the ownership into like a management company. So then the management company will be run by the residents. So it will be for them to really implement what they grow in terms of fruits and vegetables. But we do have a walled garden strategy, so that will include things like maintaining the walls, mowing the grass, planting. So that will be done by contractors through the management company.
Thank you.
Councillor Howard-Sorrell?
Thank you, Chair. You talked a little bit about the sustainable credentials of the site, and you're putting in bee bricks and all sorts of other nice things. Where's the solar? Especially on the community centre, if nowhere else, because community centres are really trying to make a push in Basingstoke, at least from what I've seen, to get solar on their roofs.
Yeah, so on some of the residential properties there are solar. There's not solar on every one, but there isn't a requirement to. But on the community buildings, so the requirement is for it to achieve a BREEAM excellent rating. So if it needs solar panels to achieve that accreditation, then obviously they will need to be incorporated as part of the design. But there are other ways that accreditation can be achieved. So it doesn't have to have solar. There can be other energy efficient, like building methods, construction methods, how the heating and ventilation system works to achieve that accreditation.
Any further questions, Councillor Rattigan?
Thank you, Chair. On the site visit, we noted that obviously the value of Worting House itself. How quickly will we see an improvement of those electric cables that were in the front? Because frankly, I mean, they are an eyesore, and I think if you polish the jewel, perhaps it would be advantageous.
So the works, the heritage benefits are secured through the Section 106. So we're happy to commit to a timing in the negotiations through that. But obviously the recommendation of the officers is to secure those heritage benefits, which are on the plans listed. So I can't say precisely when they will happen, just that they will happen. That undergrounding of the cables will happen. It's one of the off-site benefits.
Any further questions? Okay, thank you very much for your contribution. Questions for officers? Do we have any questions for officers? Good. I thought there might be some, but then again, may have asked questions at the viewing or previously, so that's fine. Okay, so we'll move on for debate then. Do I have somebody lined up? Councillor Robinson.
Thank you, Chair. I walked into this room, I would say, broadly in favour of this application, but as we've gone through the evening, I've heard more. My opinion of it has generally sort of gone downhill, I would say, would be a fair way of putting it. Affordable housing, it's under our standard. I understand the reason why it's under our standard, but from what I've been told, no attempt has been made to make up that deficit through, as I say, Homes England or another source. That could have been done, that should have been done prior to tonight. There's no solar panels on any of the roofs, and it's not a requirement at the moment. It could well be by the time this gets built. But we're living in times where environmental matters are important. Again, it should be done, it ought to be done, and it hasn't been done. And the site layout, yes, this site was planned before the care home was there, or a layout was planned beforehand, but this layout wasn't planned before the care home was there. This layout was planned a long time after the care home was there. And I think a lot more could have been done with the orientation of the houses nearest to it. It would be so easy to have all the windows facing east-west rather than facing south. So my opinion so far is nowhere near as good as it was when I walked into the room. I think I'll leave it there for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Rattigan.
Thank you, Chair. Many of us have seen many alliterations of this application, if we're honest. And the fact that it is sitting into the lower element of the whole site, I think is advantageous. The number of dwellings has been reduced substantially, and therefore the impact has been reduced substantially. The effect on the listed building of Worting House is, I think it is to the credit of the applicant to get rid of horrible electricity wires across the field that gives you the best view. I think is a real positive. And frankly, we do need to make sure that our heritage assets are looked after. They can't be set in aspic, and as it says, there's less than substantial harm to it. The Councillor Robinson's point about the number of affordable homes, I accept, but we need to be, as a council, a little bit more flexible. We need to see that sometimes social rent is far better than market rent, and we need to accept that if you have to compromise somewhere, it is better that you make sure that the living conditions within the site are as good as they can be. Things like the walled garden come back into use, and as we stood there, nobody could say that was pretty. The current buildings, the repair centre, I have to say, is awful. And this has taken a lot of time to get to. They've chosen, or the applicant has chosen, Keller Homes, and I know because they're a Scottish company, are of good quality. We can see down the road in Winchester with the development there that they've got a sense of the community there. Now it's a huge site down there, and this is a much more new-sown site. We, or whoever was here in 2016 when we voted through the local plan, there was an acceptance that there will be the starting point of Moneydown. Are we to genuinely say we are going to throw out the good on the basis that maybe we, at some point in the future, in 7 years' time or wherever, to get the great? The vehicle entrance looked fine to me. It did, in my view, give confirmation that what was lost in green passageway up there would be replaced by beech hedges. I think all of us would accept that what's currently there in conifers is frankly not good enough for the new residents. And I think that is a positive. We have to look at the social benefits of having things like community gardens, community orchards, places where people can get together if they are a new community. Because I don't think we as a committee should be building homes. We should be starting by building communities. And this is the start of the Moneydown community. And therefore I am happy with the recommendation as it stands, and therefore I move it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bound.
Thank you, Chair. I'm broadly supportive of this application. It provides the borough with 104 dwellings, including an affordable rental element. There'll be a neighbourhood centre, a preschool nursery, public open space, there's biodiversity net gain, and so on. I do note that the urban design team, historic environment team, Historic England and the Hampshire Garden Trust maintain their objections. However, in my opinion, having attended this site visit on Friday and read the officer's reasons for recommending approval set out within the papers, I'm convinced that the proposal has more to recommend it than negatives that would sway me towards refusal. My major qualm, and Councillor Robinson has raised it, is the reduction in the affordable element down from 40% to 31%. But in mitigation, the revisions to the original proposal of 115 dwellings, as listed on page 41 of the report, convinced me that the proposal should be supported. And I would second Councillor Rattigan's proposal for approval, but I don't want to stop debate.
Okay, Councillor Hussey.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to start off by looking at the affordable homes. And I note that just 3 of them are houses at social rent, 3 out of 104. And it does say here that in the report that the type and size is disappointing. I think it's more than disappointing, only 3 houses. It means that the rest of them are basically one-bed flats. And I think that doesn't meet our unmet need for social housing. It falls way short. Many of the people who are on our housing needs register, they need gardens as well. They don't want shared spaces. Why should social rented houses have less facility than those on the open market? I think that if the balance of 3 out of 17 was to change more so like 14 houses than 3 flats, to change the balance completely, then that would be a very positive move. I'm also concerned about the proximity to Oakley Lodge and light pollution from cars coming and going. And I'm talking about early evening in winter. So trees are not much good as a screen. First of all, they've got trunks, so the canopy is way off the ground. And if they're deciduous, it's even worse. Hedges make a nice soft screening, but there really needs to be some kind of barrier which helps to reduce sound and light pollution for the inhabitants of Oakley Lodge. I think that could have been better than is being proposed in this application. And whilst the scheme has been amended, there are 3 negatives from the consultations. Historic Environment Team, the appearance of the conservation area, and failed to preserve the settings of the listed building. That by itself is one negative, but that's added to by the comments of Historic England, where it says that the benefits will be outweighed by the harm of the principle of the development. Now, again, going back to social housing, if that element mix was different, then perhaps I'd be swayed. And also the Garden Trust outweigh the harm to the setting of Worting House. Now, I wasn't there on the visit, but I know the area well. I had a number of accidents in my car and had my car repaired at the garage in years gone by when that repair shop was still working. And many years ago, and that's why I'm not declaring an interest, my daughter used to work in Worting House and often needed Dad's taxi to get her to and from work. So I know the area well. And those are all the elements I'm concerned about. So I think on balance, I must vote against the recommendation.
Okay, any other? Councillor Freeman?
I'm pretty much in agreement with Councillor Robinson. I broadly supported it when I came in here. I did have issues with the affordable housing, but I must say it's extremely disappointing in these days of climate emergency when a developer turns around and said, oh, there's not a requirement for solar panels. You know, there may not be a legal requirement, but there's a moral duty to be providing every single way we can to protect the environment and reduce our carbon footprint. And, you know, although there are a lot of good points about these schemes, again, the lack of affordable housing, the environmental issues there, I don't know, I can't support an approval.
Councillor Faulkner?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I suppose I start with the question of do we want housing or do we not? Looking at it from a top-down point of view, I mean, became a councillor 10 years ago and I was put onto the Many Down Overview Committee. And being from Evingar, I had no idea what Many Down at that time was. So 10 years on, I really would be rather desperate to see some actual houses being built. Our officers and the applicants seem to have been going to and fro for quite some time to achieve a satisfactory outcome. Now, whilst we can nitpick with odds and sods in this committee, the overall scheme, I think time is of the essence, is a decent scheme. It may not be perfect, we may have different opinions and ideas, but as a planning application, I personally think it's sound and I will support it.
Right, Councillor Durrant and Councillor Robinson, and then we've got a live proposal, so we need to vote. Councillor Durrant.
Thank you, Chair. I am in favour, to be honest, of this application. My one concern is the protection and separation of the Oakley Lodge with the development itself. If there was a better, more solid, more robust screening, that would alleviate the difficulty, if you like, I have. But I do think it is a plan, and we do need to move forward with development. So I'm in favour, but that one point is sticking with me a bit. Thank you.
Councillor Robinson.
Thank you, Chair. I'm disappointed with it, is the honest answer. Am I disappointed enough to vote against it? No, I'm not. I probably walked into this room 90% in favour, and I'm now 51% in favour. So I will vote for it because it does just, the benefits do just outweigh the disadvantages. But what I do want to do, if there are any other developers watching this, I do want to tell them, you know, don't come to DC with applications like this. It reminds me of my school reports, which said could do better if you tried. Thank you.
So, Councillor Durrant, I think we've got a possible additional condition to address your concern.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's just in relation to some of the comments made lastly by Councillor Durham, but elsewhere in the debate there was the concern about what that boundary treatment would be. There is a boundary treatment condition on there, on the papers listed. The committee could request an informative note to go alongside that, to request that the applicant, in submitting those details for discharge of condition, pay particular attention to that boundary with Oakley Lodge, looking at particular yeah, of course, looking at particular, whether it's, particular solid boundary or something to deal with the issues around light in particular from car headlights. So that could be put on there. In terms of the actual condition that's already on, it's condition number 15, which deals with boundary treatments. So this would effectively be an informative note alongside that, which provides the applicant with some guidance as to where that boundary treatment proposal might come forward. I think that's the limit to which you could apply additional information.
Okay.
When the additional information is provided, the note, can we make certain it refers to both light and noise pollution, the screening?
I think it would be difficult to say that it needs to be an acoustic fence of some sort. I think we can make the point that the boundary treatment needs to try almost the best endeavours to deal with light and noise. But that's, just to be clear, that would fall short of a full acoustic condition as such. It's just providing that direction, if you like, as to where the applicant should be looking for their proposal to move.
Mover and second, are you happy with that to be included? Yes. Okay. In which case we'll move to vote. So those in favour of the recommendation, please show. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's carried. 8. Okay. Those against, please show. 1, 2, 3. And abstentions, that's me. So that's carried. If we could have the decision announced, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so the application is approved, subject to the completion of the legal agreement for the matters set out in the main report, together with the conditions, with the amendment to condition 33, as set out in the update paper, and with the additional informative just discussed in relation to condition 15, boundary treatments with Oakley Lodge.
Excellent, thank you very much. And so now, in addition, we have the listed building consent, 22-02807/LBC. Lisa, if you'd like to introduce that one, thanks.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So this is a concurrent listed building consent application. Whilst the description is identical to the full application, the only matter that actually requires listed building consent are for those works to the walled garden itself. These have been proposed, a schedule of works with the application, which officers consider acceptable. It clearly is a positive benefit in bringing this walled garden back to full health, as we would say, and therefore the recommendation is to approve, subject to the conditions set out in the main paper.
Okay, thank you very much. And Ms. Smiles, did you want to speak again on this one? It's up to you if you want to. We had you down, but... Yeah, that's great, thanks.
Okay.
Well, thank you for approving the full application. As Mrs. Adams explained, the accompanying listed building consent application, and this is to enable the works of repair and restoration to the walled garden, which is a curtilage listed building. In improving the full application, obviously you've recognised that there are significant benefits of this development, of which the walled garden is the significant part. It's the heart of the new community. As you saw, for those that visited, it's in a poor state of repair. The structural report with the application assessed the condition of the wall, and repair and restoration is entirely possible. What we are proposing is to remove the unsympathetic additions, such as the modern sheds. We'll be relaying and repointing brickwork where necessary, using the lime mortar, removing the rooted vegetation that's sort of grown in and through the wall, and then rebuilding the sections of the wall that you will have seen that has collapsed. And the glass houses and potting sheds will also be restored and refurbished. Those works that we're proposing, they secure, in our view, the optimal viable use of the heritage asset, allowing it to be returned to a garden use as a community garden. And along with all the other heritage benefits, we think this is a really significant improvement. So we hope that you can agree with your officer's recommendation here that these proposed works are necessary and will bring this walled garden back into beneficial use and will result in positive benefits for the scheme. Thank you. If you have any questions.
Excellent, thank you. Any questions arising? Okay, there are none. Thank you for your contribution. Do we have any questions for officers on listed building consent? I see no hands. Good. So we'll move on to debate. Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Chair. As a former heritage champion of this council, when I was sitting in the seat you are, I welcome this because I think the preservation of heritage, we've talked about that earlier on, but the actual recovery of heritage assets back into the community realm, as has been described by the applicants, is to be applauded. I've had probably the lucky chance, I suppose, of visiting several operational walled gardens, and we've got several in Hampshire, and I do recommend anybody who wants to explore some of our heritage. They were built anywhere from the 16th century onwards, and it just shows how sensitive those builders were in these larger gardens of a very simple method, we call it technology today, of how to get these gardens to be operating. And every single walled garden faces south, and this is where they grew their fruit. And it'd be nice to see when this is completely refurbished, that same approach is taken. So I am absolutely delighted that it's going to be brought back into operation, and I'm sure that the residents are going to applaud that and give full support to it. And you might gather that I move the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. So, Councillor Robinson.
Thank you, Chair. Well, as the current heritage champion, I support everything Councillor Miller said, and I think this is one of the biggest benefits of this site. And without that improvement, I probably wouldn't have voted for the rest of it. So I'm happy to second it. Thank you.
Excellent. Anyone else want to speak before we move to the vote? Okay, then we'll move to the vote. All those in favour, please show. That's unanimous. Right, I think.
Thank you, Chair. So just to confirm, listed building consent has been granted subject to conditions in the main paper.
Excellent. So I think that concludes business for the evening, doesn't it? Thank you everyone for attending. Meeting closed.